There is a kind of presence that does not shout, does not demand, does not seek approval, and yet, it fills the entire room. It is the quiet confidence that comes when you have lived long enough to no longer need anyone else's permission to exist fully as yourself. After 65, you begin to realize that the battles you once fought for validation, for belonging, for recognition, no longer hold power over you. You know who you are. You know what you've survived. And that certainty, that deep, rooted sense of self, is irresistible in a way words can never quite capture. When you're younger, confidence is often loud. It's about proving, performing, showing the world what you can do. But with time comes a gentler, deeper kind of assurance. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room, because your energy already speaks before you do. People notice it without you trying. They notice the way you move without rushing, the way you smile without pretense, the way you carry yourself with ease rather than effort. That kind of confidence does not demand attention. It attracts it naturally. And here's the truth: quiet confidence is born from living. It comes from decades of both triumphs and failures, of learning that not every closed door is a tragedy, and not every opinion is worth your peace. It comes from standing back up after life has knocked you down, more times than you can count, and realizing that you are still here. It comes from shedding layers of insecurity, comparison, and self-doubt until what remains is a self that is whole, unshakable, and unapologetically authentic. That is what makes it so magnetic, because authenticity has a power that cannot be faked. Philosophically, quiet confidence is freedom. It is freedom from the exhausting need to impress, freedom from the endless chase to measure up to someone else's standards. It is the understanding that your worth was never dependent on external approval in the first place. And when you live in that freedom, people sense it. They feel drawn to you not because of what you do, but because of the energy of peace and certainty you carry within you. Think about the people you've met in your life who carried this kind of presence. They didn't have to say much. They didn't boast, they didn't perform. Yet when they walked into the room, something shifted. You found yourself leaning in, wanting to know them, wanting to understand what made them so at ease in their own skin. That's the power of quiet confidence. It speaks the language of the soul. And the beauty of reaching this stage of life is that you can finally embrace it for yourself. You no longer need to hide your scars because they tell your story. You no longer need to explain yourself because your life has already spoken for you. You no longer need to compete because you've learned that true fulfillment isn't found in comparison but in self-acceptance. This is why quiet confidence after 65 is so irresistible. It is rare. It is real. It is radiant without effort. And it reminds others, consciously or unconsciously, of what they too are striving for: the freedom to simply be themselves without apology. So I leave you with this thought: the most powerful presence is not the one that shouts the loudest, but the one that simply is. When you stand firmly in yourself, rooted in who you are and what you've lived through, you don't need to chase attention, it will find you. Because confidence, at its highest form, is not spoken, it is felt. One of the most magnetic qualities a person can carry after 65 is the ability to listen with depth, without needing to prove or perform. In a world that is louder than ever, where people compete to be heard, where conversations often feel like battles of who can speak next, someone who offers the gift of true listening becomes irresistible without saying a word. It's not just about hearing sounds, it's about being fully present with another human being, creating a space where their story matters, their emotions matter, their existence matters. And when you've lived long enough, you begin to understand that listening is not a passive act. It is an act of love. When you are younger, conversations can feel like a stage. You want to show your knowledge, your wit, your point of view. But as you age, especially after 65, you begin to realize the power is not in what you say, it's in what you receive. The ability to sit across from someone and give them your full attention, without judgment, without rushing to offer advice, without turning the spotlight back on yourself, is one of the rarest gifts in this distracted world. That gift, when offered, makes people feel safe. And when people feel safe, they are drawn to you like water to the earth. The psychology of deep listening tells us that human beings have a fundamental need to be seen and heard. Without it, people feel invisible. With it, they feel valued. And what happens when you reach this stage of life is that your lived experience teaches you patience. You've realized that silence can be more powerful than words, that presence can speak louder than advice, and that sometimes what people need most is not your solution, but your attention. This is why elders who truly listen carry such magnetic energy, because their listening is not about them, it is about you. Philosophically, listening is humility in action. It says, I am willing to put aside my ego, my need to be right, my desire to dominate this moment, in order to honor your humanity. That kind of humility is rare. That kind of humility is irresistible. And it grows naturally in those who have walked through decades of life, who no longer feel the need to prove themselves in every conversation. And let's be honest, there is something unforgettable about being in the presence of someone who listens this way. You feel lighter. You feel more grounded. You leave the conversation not only with your words spoken, but with your soul acknowledged. That is a gift so few people offer. And yet after 65, it becomes one of the most powerful tools of connection you can carry. The beauty of this trait is that it doesn't require effort. You don't have to study it, rehearse it, or polish it. You simply have to bring yourself fully into the moment, without distraction, without the urge to control the narrative. And the truth is, when you embody this kind of listening, people cannot help but feel drawn to you. They may not even know why, but the reason is simple. You have offered them what the world rarely does: your full, undivided presence. So the next time you find yourself in conversation, remember this: you don't have to speak to be remembered. You don't have to argue to be respected. Sometimes, the most irresistible thing you can do is to lean in, soften your gaze, and truly hear someone. Because listening, when done with love, is not silence, it is presence, and presence is power. There is a beauty that grows with time, a beauty that does not fade but rather deepens as the years unfold. After 65, that beauty is no longer about the sharpness of features or the smoothness of skin. It becomes about presence, wisdom, and the way your spirit radiates outward. This is the quiet allure of grace. Grace is not about perfection. Grace is about how you carry yourself in a world that has tested you, how you respond when life doesn't go your way, and how you choose to move with dignity even when circumstances would give you every excuse not to. When you've lived long enough, you realize that grace is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is strength wrapped in gentleness, power expressed through kindness, authority carried without arrogance. People feel it the moment you walk into a space. They see it in the way you hold your head high without looking down on anyone. They hear it in the calmness of your voice, in the way you don't rush to defend or argue, in the way you choose peace over pride. Grace is magnetic because it cannot be manufactured. It is earned through years of living, through struggles that taught you patience, through heartbreaks that softened you instead of hardening you. The psychology of human connection shows us that people are drawn to those who carry a sense of calm strength. In a world filled with chaos, noise, and insecurity, someone who radiates grace becomes like a steady anchor. And after 65, you have an opportunity to become that anchor, not because life has been easy, but because you have learned not to let life harden your heart. Grace is the choice to keep your spirit open, to keep showing up with compassion, to keep forgiving, even when the world has given you reasons to shut down. Philosophically, grace is one of the rarest expressions of maturity. It is the ability to hold complexity, to understand that life is not black and white, people are not all good or all bad, and that love is always greater than judgment. When you carry grace, people feel safe in your presence, because they know you will not reduce them to their mistakes. You will see the human being in front of you, not just their flaws. That is why grace is irresistible. It makes others feel that they too can be imperfect and still be worthy of love. And let's not forget, grace also extends inward. After 65, many people carry regrets, the weight of choices made or not made. Grace allows you to forgive yourself. It allows you to let go of the unnecessary shame that steals your joy. It teaches you that you don't need to keep revisiting the past as a punishment. You can honor your journey without being trapped by it. When you give that gift to yourself, it spills over into how you treat others. That self-forgiveness becomes a light in your presence, and people can sense it even before you speak. So as you move forward, remember this: grace is not about being flawless. It is about being whole. It is about choosing compassion over condemnation, dignity over drama, peace over pride. When you embody grace, you do not need to demand respect. You inspire it. You do not need to chase love. You attract it. And you do not need to prove your worth. You live it. In the end, what makes grace so irresistible is that it reminds people of what is possible for themselves. It shows them that no matter their scars, No matter their age, they too can walk with lightness, with dignity, with beauty that no time can erase. That is the kind of presence that lingers long after you've left the room.